This is Colin McGuigan for IFLTV. Edward, it's been a while.
A lot of people won't know that you're wearing the same aloe tracksuit as I was wearing in New York.
Let's just clarify though. I messaged you and said, by the way, you're wearing the tracksuit that I wore. You've seen it on my Instagram. That's such a lie.
Do you think I take notice of what you wear?
You've seen it and you went, that's actually a bit of kit. I'll get that.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
I can tell.
Listen, if you want, we can put a who wore it better.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So I will provide you with a photo of me in the tracksuit. You can get someone to take a photo, one of those muggy ones that you take where you go.
No, but you actually seen it on my Instagram already, so that's what.
Tom, don't be daft.
You did? Me in the ring? Wearing it? You seen it?
In the ring? What? Okay. You can do it. Who wore it better? Let the world be the judge.
See, you're preparing for the floods today with the short represent tracksuit.
Yeah, I've got to get changed, so hurry up. What do you want?
Right, Edward. I think first of all, we need to speak about Dana White and Zuffa. We will come on to why we're here in Vegas this week. But obviously, they had their first press conference yesterday. They announced Jai Opetaia this week. I know your reaction will be, oh, it'll be what it'll be. We've lost another fighter. The show goes on. That's your usual attitude to this. But from a point of view of you see yourself as the best promoter in the world, self-proclaimed, is it annoying for you that you put effort and time into someone and then they leave?
I think every fighter is different, isn't it? I mean, for Jai, we haven't promoted Jai ourselves for Matchroom for over 2 years in terms of like since the Jordan Thompson fight. So everything that we've done around Jai has been with Mick Francis and Tasman Fighters. So the last 3 fights that Jai has done, which have all been in Australia, we haven't been the promoter of. So the first fight, we, with Turkey Al Sheikh, provided quite a lot of money for sponsorship. The second fight against the Italian guy, we weren't involved with at all. And the third fight, which is probably where the problem came, the Zone turned it down and didn't make an offer to air the fight. And then it went on Stan, which is a broadcaster in Australia, so we couldn't be involved with that. So I kind of feel like over that period, we haven't been doing too much. But more importantly, I wasn't able to deliver Jai the fights that people want to see him in. Which is essentially not his fault, or really not my fault, because Zerdo Ramirez either wasn't available or didn't really fancy the fight, in my opinion. So you're left kind of like doing these fights. I mean, Jai was on really tiny money for those fights, and I have to respect him because they were Tasman Fighter shows, and he was taking tiny money just to fight. So he had to do something, and he had to make a move, and the move wasn't really with us, if I'm honest. Like, I've not had any conversation with Mick about Jai for well over 6 months where we actually had an offer for him or an opportunity for him. So he was treading water and something had to change. And I think hopefully this deal can give him what he wants. I know obviously it's the confusion of Zuffa aren't recognising any belts, but then Jai and Mick are saying this is going to take us to the big undisputed fights. So I think the messaging's all over the place. It doesn't really matter. Hopefully it does. The problem is going to be still delivering him those fights. You've got Benavidez against Zerdo Ramirez in May. So those guys aren't going to be available till, I don't know, November, December. So what's the plan for Jai? Presumably, if the plan is true to its word, he will unify. There's only one other champion. So he'll fight the WBC champion, Mikalayan, next, which I think is brilliant for him. So as long as he does that, and as long as that actually happens, I think this has been the best move that Jai and Mick could make, because they've got to do something and they've got to make a move because they were treading water, and boxing in Australia just wasn't working and the numbers weren't working. So now I think it's a great opportunity for him.
Okay, I understand what you're saying about Jai, right? But from a promoter's perspective, you've lost someone who's potential pound-for-pound superstar.
Jai hasn't been under contract with us for over a year. So we would.
Well, then is that a failing on your part that he hasn't been under contract and then he's been able to slip away?
We haven't had anything for him. That's the problem. Like, the reason that he was fighting in Australia for that kind of money is because we weren't able to come up with the opportunities for him. So why would he sign a long-term contract with us if we can't offer him anything? Do you know what I mean? The wider relationship with Mick Francis led us to be involved with those shows. But we, like I said, we haven't been, we've been working with him and we've had a partnership with Tasman Fighters, but actually contractually, we haven't had him for over a year. So am I disappointed to not be involved moving forward? I would have liked to have been able to deliver him the fights. I think Jai is an amazing fighter, and I would have loved to have seen him go on and actually achieve what I think he can, which is to unify the division and maybe even become undisputed. But I wasn't the man to deliver that. And unfortunately, couldn't get the support of DAZN even in Australia, because they turned down the last fight. And there's nothing I can do. When my broadcaster turns down, the fight and they go elsewhere as well, I can't be involved. And it was probably going that way anyway. So I think as long as he gets that WBC title in his next fight, I think it's a brilliant move for him. And I hope he can go on and become unified and undisputed, because I think he's a great fighter.
Does it worry you that other fighters, maybe, a lot of talk out there about Bam Rodriguez, does that worry you that other fighters that you have, the likes of pound for pound star like Bam, could potentially go to Zuffa?
Not really. I mean, I don't really get worried about that kind of thing. Ultimately, if a fighter is a big priority for you and the network, you do everything you can to keep them. I think that as a fighter, you've got to make a decision. And it's difficult for me to comment on that because I don't really know what they're doing, these guys, or what the direction is. On Bloomberg, in the business interview to the market, you're saying, no governing bodies, we're changing everything, we're going to control boxing, blah, blah, blah. And then in the other stuff, when you talk about a fighter that's coming to you who wants a legacy with belts, you're saying, no, for certain fighters, we might allow it at the start and stuff like this. I don't know. But I don't want to sound arrogant, but, I think we're in a pretty good spot in terms of where a fighter wants to be. Again, if a fighter is really important to me personally and really important to the company and more importantly to our broadcaster, we will do everything we can to keep them. I think they're going to get fighters, but it's just going to be interesting to see what they do, because there's a lot of friction. I mean, I'm kind of like a little bit against the whole, this is terrible for boxing. You've seen, obviously, the governing bodies come out. I get why they're saying that. Obviously, Oscar's just done his clapback again and stuff like that. I think, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, I think Dana White, TKO, Nick Khan, all these people in boxing is great for boxing. These are very experienced, very powerful people, and they've seen an opportunity. I think one of the really interesting things when I look at the business is going to be how the UFC talent roster reacts to the amount of money that these guys are paying fighters. So you've got a situation where, and excuse my naivety or lack of information because I don't really follow MMA that deeply, but you've got a situation where you've got Paddy the Baddy against Justin Gaethje, Justin, at T-Mobile on Saturday, right? Paramount paying huge license fees. Yet Paddy and Justin are making considerably less than a fighter that is nowhere near the draw or bringing nowhere near the commercial revenue that they are. Does that make sense?
So, are you suggesting the likes of Callum Walsh against Campbell on Saturday night?
No, bringing in Jai and bringing in those guys. Do you know what I mean? So you've got, I know what Jai's pay-per-view numbers were in Australia, right? And then you've got these guys selling out the T-Mobile, getting tens of millions of dollars license fees. I just think it's going to be interesting, and I think, I don't know, I'm more fascinated. I'm not really that, when you talk about, there's a lot of people criticising the show opener on Friday, right? Who's fighting? There's 100 people watching in the venue, like it's closed, but I'm more interested in the bigger business, and I think it's fascinating what's going to happen. I think there'll be a revolt from the UFC fighters, to be honest, because I think they'll be thinking, why are we making so much less than the boxers when the show and the business and the revenue is so much higher? So, yeah, it'd be interesting.
Before we move on from Opetaia, does this affect your relationship with Mick Francis, Tasman Fighters? Is that kind of dead in the water? Because actually, I interviewed you probably, going to say 2 months ago, and you said we're working on a new broadcast deal with the.
Well, we have a new broadcast deal in Australia that we'll be announcing soon. We have a number of partners in Australia, and Mick was one of them. And we still have a contract with Justice Honey. Terra Moana is no longer with Tasman Fighters, so he's just exclusively with Matchroom. But Mick does a great job in Australia. Like the shows that Mick was doing, Mick deserves a lot of credit when it comes to Jai, because Mick did his bollocks. I mean, every show that Jai was doing was losing a fortune. But Mick, the way that Mick was doing the show, it was really top class, And I think Mick's his own man. I think Mick wants to be the main man. So I think he wants to do his own deals. He wants to, we've had a bit of that in the past, but moving forward, open to doing business with him, And like I say, I think Tasman do a great job. Mick, Fran, when they put on the shows, the arrivals, the weigh-in, the production, it's been really good. But it's a tough market, that is. And that's why Jai's been fighting for what he's been fighting with. It's not Mick's fault. It's not Jai's fault. That's just the market in Australia. And if you're not pulling the numbers, that's how you're going to be getting paid. And Mick stayed in the game and kept battling away. So he deserves the commission that he's going to make out the deal, because he'll be getting some money back.
On Dana White, last time we were in, well, not last time, but one of the times we were in Vegas, Conor Benn fought here, and he came in ringside, was your guest. Sat there with you. You two were the best of pals. He referred to a personal kind of offence to what you've been saying and stuff, and he said that you've taken things a lot more personal than what you should have. Do you feel that way?
No, I mean, I haven't taken in. I mean, the only thing he said I thought was a bit strange. I mean, every time I'm with Dana, he has been like, and also I'll always say, he's been great to me. He's been extremely hospitable. I like him a lot. I respect him a lot. I didn't like his comments. He knows that we're the only players in boxing that come close to what those guys do as a business. And he knows that. And he's told me that in the past. And he knows that our reputation. And there's a lot of conversations going on behind the scenes of various different stuff. He knows how good we are. And I didn't like him labelling us, almost like in a box with everybody else. So when you say, boxing promoters, they think small, they don't think big. I'm like, I've been accused of a lot of things. Thinking small is not one of them. So when you say that, it wasn't like I wasn't sitting there like fuming and losing my rag. But of course, if you say something like that, it's going to get my attention. So nothing's personal. I've never said anything personal about Dana White, and I would never do so, because he's been good to me. And you won't find me saying he's a disgrace to boxing, it's terrible for boxing. When he talks about boxing, I don't think that's someone that knows a great deal about the sport. Like when I just spoke about Paddy and Justin Gethers, same thing, right? And I think that a lot of the decisions that are getting made over there are not necessarily Dana's decision. What Dana is, he's a showman. He's the man that stands in the middle and delivers, and that's the same really with me. So we'll see. Listen, we might end up working together, or we might.
Really?
Why not? Or we might go to war. But one thing's for sure, I don't think Dana White's losing any sleep over me. And honestly, right now, I'm not really losing any sleep over Dana. We'll see what the paths take. We'll see what Friday delivers. We'll see Jai getting this big unification fight next.
Would you go on Friday night to the event?
Yeah, of course.
Are you going?
No. Well, I'm not invited, but I would go. I don't see why not. I've learned so much from the UFC. And I've said that in so many interviews. You know how many times I've said, I watch the UFC, I admire the business. I admire Dana White, Nick Khan, these guys. They're unbelievably bright people. I've learned so much from watching that brand evolve and watching the figurehead come through the sport like Dana White. So I can't say, will I, I won't be watching that rubbish. Of course I'll be watching it. And I'll be watching. I might be learning, or I might be massively underwhelmed by the products. but they're not going to fail. Do you know what I mean? They don't often fail. It's just what they do and what the product is, and I think that's the bit that's really confusing right now. Is what is it? So it's a league, right? So is this the start of the league? How does the league work? Did you? I mean, you were at the press conference. These are all things when you interviewed Dana yesterday. Did you ask him?
Didn't have an opportunity to interview Dana yesterday, but you're right, and someone did actually ask, potentially be a league format. No, that's to come. Apparently, it hasn't been.
All right. So tomorrow, Friday's not a league.
From my understanding, it's the first fight night. There's been suggestions that it's been a league, but it's not been officially confirmed.
So what are they fighting for tomorrow?
I guess when it becomes a league, the stats will be updated at that point.
So you backdate the fights that happened before the league started?
I get where you're coming from.
No, I'm not criticising it. It's just that tomorrow night, when you come on and say, this is the new Zuffa Boxing TKO League, but it's not a league yet, but watch these fights, and when it is a league, maybe we'll revisit what happened in those fights and you can get points, and I don't know. Or is it just...
From my understanding, there's going to be 12 shows in the US and 3 in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
I would imagine,
but
on the basis of that...
Tomorrow, is it just 3 10-rounders?
There's the prelims as well, which is the short fight.
Broadcast. 3 10-rounders, no belts, obviously.
Yeah, no belts.
So it's just 3 10-rounders.
I guess then...
World title. There's no world title eliminator. There's no him fighting for an opportunity to go on and change his life and win a belt.
What was your first ever show for Matchroom?
Darren Barker against Domenico Spada for the European Championship at Olympia.
First ever show, right? You were doing that obviously from a background of your dad ran events. It kind of materialised into that. Do you feel like there's a comparison in that you would say that you started off better than Zuffa Boxing?
That's... I don't care who. I'm just trying to understand what it is, because when we do a show, for example, and I know we've been doing boxing a long time, so it's not a comparison. But the narrative is, so on Saturday night at the Fontainebleau, Andy Cruz, who was a 2-time Olympic gold medalist and has just had a handful of fights, is fighting the world champion Raymond Murataya to become the IBF champion of the world at lightweight, right? Khalil Coe and Jesse Hart are in a bad blood fight where you've got Philly against New Jersey and a chance to go on and challenge for the world championship. Israel Madrimov returns after fighting Virgil Ortiz, and this is going to position him for a fight against Boots or Xander Zayas, or do you know what I mean? So I'm just trying to get my head round what it is and how you're selling it, because if it was me doing a press yesterday, what you saying, this is just because you can't say this is going to position Callum Walsh for a shot at the world championship, his lifelong dream, because you don't want to do that. Do you know what I mean? So what you're saying is this is 3 10-round fights that are going to be great action, but they don't actually mean anything, do they? And this is the whole thing with like the governing bodies, and I always have arguments with the governing bodies, always. But one thing I will tell you is the belts mean everything to fighters. And I want to put belts on. Look at Dalton Smith the other week. All right? Dalton Smith, all he ever wanted to do was win the WBC world title. And we go to America with a dream. And this is like when you talk about that dream and that legacy of going to America and winning the green and gold belt and knocking out Matthias and laying on the floor with your dad cuddling you, saying, "We've done it, son, world champion." That is everything. And don't underestimate the value of that versus, here's our show, there's 3 10-round fights. It's going to be great. Do you know what I mean? But that's just me. So maybe they can change it, and maybe they can create a narrative that when the league starts, getting 4 points for a win and 2 points for a loss and a knockout is actually a thing.
He said in an interview that he was going to blow you all out of the water. What do you think of those comments, and what would your response be to Dana White saying that?
I'm hardly going to be blown out of the water, am I? I mean, we got a massive business, over £1 billion business. We're doing 30 shows a year all over the world. We've got multiple sports. We're in a wonderful position. We've got the strongest stable of world boxers you've ever seen. I don't really know what to say. I don't think Dana's good enough when it comes to boxing. Don't get me wrong. They're amazing minds, but it's a different kind of passion. When I wake up in the morning, all I think about is my shows and the card and the path that our fighters are on. And I can't tell you the love and the passion I have for the sport of boxing. And I know that you're never going to beat me when it comes to work ethic. And I know that I'm the best in the world. So if you can't beat me with work ethic, and you'll never be better than me as a boxing promoter, and you don't have the same kind of passion and love and energy that I have, you just got to back yourself, haven't you? And everybody should back themselves. And I just think but these guys they're good at what they do. So I don't know. I mean, will he blow me out of the water? I don't think so. But the proof will be in the pudding, won't it? And if that's what he wants to do, blow me out the water. We'll see how it all plays out. But time will give us every answer we need.
Right, let's run through some questions because I know we don't have too much time today. What's the update with Boots and Virgil Ortiz? Are you now moving on from that situation?
No, look, it's a very sensitive situation, obviously, because I think Virgil Ortiz has terminated or attempted to terminate his contract with Golden Boy. I think we're told that he has terminated it and they've filed a lawsuit. I don't know how that's playing out. We, of course, want to make the Boots fight. We have done for a long time. We are also thinking about Xander Zayas, who fights next week. We're also thinking about Josh Kelly, that fights next week. And Josh Kelly right now is just, what he's done is he's pitched up at the roulette table. He's got the dice and he's just gone, vroom, I'm all in. Because he's got the fight next week against Murtzalayev. By the way, that is such a massive fight. And you've got to take your hat off to Josh Kelly. He can win that fight. And he's already signed to fight Boots. So Josh Kelly could be the guy that Boots fights next. We'll see what happens next Saturday.
Would that be in Philadelphia?
Philadelphia. We can do it in Sunderland. I don't care. But Josh becomes a major player next week. I like the Virgil Ortiz fight because I think those guys are number 1 and number 2 in the division. I think Boots is sensational. I think Virgil's an unbelievable fighter. So, but obviously, things have been evolving, so we'll have to see.
David Morrell, Callum Smith going to purse bids. Yeah. Do you hope to win this one?
I do. I mean, I think we sometimes get told that we don't win purse bids. Sometimes we don't. But when we do win a purse bid, no one even talks about it. We won the Andy Cruz Murataya purse bid over Top Rank. No one really talked about that, and it's happening on Saturday. It's a tough one, the Callum Smith fight, because we had a deal in place for Callum to fight Morrell in Saudi Arabia on the AJ card. Now, obviously, that's been delayed. Some of the fights that were planned on there have fallen through. So, Louis de Cubas, who represents David Morrell, we're trying to reach a deal before bids, but the split's very favourable to Callum, in that he's the champion. So we're going to...
Would you bring it to Liverpool?
Yes, 100%. That's what we want to do. Well, I haven't done a fight in Liverpool for a long time, and I think Smith-Morrell's a brilliant fight. So I would like to do Smith-Morrell. We've got Peter McGrail, Joe McGrail. It'd be brilliant to bring Molly McCann to Liverpool. Got a load of fights we can do on that card, so hopefully we win the bids, or myself and Louis can come to terms this week.
Conor Benn, Rolly Romero rumoured. What's the...
No, I mean, again, a fight that myself and Louis de Cubas have been discussing. I mentioned it today with Keith Connolly. Conor's coming to New York next week. We're all going to have dinner. Rolly Romero has to fight Shakram Giasov. Ordered. No escape. So, we would have to find a solution to that. Conor's got a tough decision because obviously Ryan Garcia is fighting Barrios on Feb 21st. He wants to fight the winner. There's rumours that the winner of that fight could fight the winner of Shakur and Teofimo. For Conor, the Ryan Garcia fight is bigger than the Rolly Romero fight. But the Rolly Romero fight in the UK for the World Championship is also a very big fight. And you go out and beat Rolly Romero, you then have a unification with Ryan Garcia. You're making more money. You're trying to unify the division. Listen, Conor's in a golden position. But strategically, we still have to get it right. You've got a lot of smart minds in the team. You've got Lee, Keith, me, Frank Smith, Conor. He knows the game as well. And he's a massive draw. We've actually been talking to DAZN this morning about a few ideas that we've got with Conor Benn. And we'll be presenting those to him next week. Me personally, I like the Romero fight. And I think he does great business in London. So we shall see.
What do you make of Chisora Wilder?
He's all right. Obviously, look, Dell is what Dell is. He's a British boxing, what do you want to call him? Hero? Icon? Wilder is way past his best, but always a name and always exciting. And I think Chisora wins. So I think it's a good fight for Dell. Yeah.
Crocker Paro purse bids?
A week on Monday or Tuesday. So
ideally in Belfast if you win.
Of course. I mean, look, Matt Rose, No Limit, made us an offer, which was peanuts. We made them an offer, which was significantly more in terms of the split for that fight. But I also understand probably wasn't enough for them to accept it or say, we've got to go to Belfast. So it will go to bids like Smith Morrell, and the value of the fight will be revealed. Do you know what I mean? And we want that fight in April in Belfast. I think it's a great fight. Liam's a brilliant fighter, and it's not an easy fight, but it's a fight that I think does really well in Belfast. I think it's a real solid first defence for Lewis Crocker, and we're up for it. So we'll, unless we can reach a deal, which I think is very doubtful, we'll all proceed to bids, and whoever pays the most money gets the fight.
Dalton Smith, Puello ordered, or will you be able to go around the
It's an
boundary?
interesting one. That fight hasn't been ordered, but there is an understanding that Puello will be the mandatory challenger and will get a shot at Dalton Smith. In my opinion, when you've just knocked out Subriel Matias and become the champion, you shouldn't have an immediate mandatory put on you. So we will be talking to Louis de Cubas. We're open to doing the Puello fight next, but we're also open to a voluntary defence and bringing a big fight to Sheffield. So, there's 3 fights there that we feel would sit really well within our schedule in the UK, which is Smith Morrell, Crocker Paro, and Dalton Smith defending his World Championship. And we feel like that would be a sensational April, May, June. So, working on all of those.
2 more questions. Conor Walker, what's next for him?
Well, as you know, he was going to fight Lewis Crocker, which I was gutted for Conor because I think he really deserved that. But he's in a great place as well. He's going to make a lot of money in his next fight. He'll fight anybody. We talked about the possibility of the Catchall fight, which I think's a good fight. We're also in negotiations with Rick Milligan for Jack Catchall to fight Ramirez, which I think is a great fight as well. Obviously, Jack is sitting at number 1 with the WBO and is mandatory to Devin Haney when that time comes, a bit like Joe Cordina with Abdullah Mason. We want to get our guys challenging for world titles. I mean, we've got Dalton Smith just won a world title. Andy Cruz, I believe, becomes world champion on Saturday. Josh Kelly can become world champion the following night, and so can Amo Williams on the same card. We could have 4 world champions in 3 weeks. So that would be amazing. And we want to position much of our guys as possible to get shots at the world title.
Last one. Since we last spoke, you went to meet with Anthony Joshua. How was that with AJ, and how has he been?
Yeah, it was just good to see him. I haven't had the opportunity to see him since the terrible crash. He's, of course, still mourning. We was in Dubai. We were at his house, staying there, and that's where he lived with Lats and Cena. So it's it's not easy. He's keeping himself busy. Physically, he's getting himself over the injuries that he suffered. I think soon he will speak. In terms of, I don't think there'll be anything boxing related, but I think sooner or later he will come out and give his own.
Are the injuries that he sustained serious injuries or?
No, they're not. They're not injuries that will affect him long term moving forward, but they're injuries that will take time. Boxing's a tough, rough sport, so they're not. You can't just go back in camp with injuries like that. And I don't know when or even if he'll go back into camp. I mean, honestly, at the moment, there is no conversation or no need to have a conversation about that. It's just AJ will always train. Right, and the training, and I think that's a lesson to everybody. Training, you and all. Training can help so much and solve so much. Honestly, and I think he realised. Don't forget that boxing changed his life forever, and he will never leave the gym. So what you're seeing at the moment is not him training for his return. He's training for his own mind, and he's training for himself physically to recover and repair. And I can't believe his strength, his resilience. If you follow him on Snapchat and that kind of stuff, now he's really starting. You're seeing he's posting so much about Cena and Lats, and it's heartbreaking because you see it all, and it's these lot were so close, and it wasn't like something, they've been together for a couple of years. This is over decades of friendship and experiences and life experiences. Do you know what I mean? And they all talked and they all had plans together post-boxing, And I know AJ will always look after those families, and it's very important to him. And I think this is something that takes time. This is not something you can digest and understand within days and weeks of it happening. It's going to be something that's going to, really take strength for a long period of time in many different ways. And it was just really good to see him as a friend and just see him and talk to him and be around him. And we're forever there for him, as so many people are. But nothing will fill the void of losing those two in his life, which was, they were so important to him.
Well, I'd appreciate your time. I know we're pushed for time today. Hopefully we'll catch up again this week. Thanks.